Hey everyone. Honestly, the questions and comments that you've been sharing with me from this three-part series, I get so excited when I see that you're in the solution and out of the chaos. I wish for you major breakthroughs from applying these principles in this series. So, just to recap, I shared the grim statistics in our world, the widespread problem of addiction, and I also shared for you what it's like to finally stop communicating with the addiction. When you apply that one principle, the freedom you feel can be massive. I also shared with you some of the most common concerns I hear from families. And I talked a little bit about my client, Lindsay, of course, with her permission. If you haven't watched these two videos, this being the third one, I'm going to put the link below here. So for 8 years, I have had these moments in this job that I call "you're not going to believe what just happened" moments. Let me explain what I mean. I get emails and text messages and voicemails, and the subject is, "You won't believe what happened." Well, I will believe what happened, but let me explain to you what I mean. When you apply these simple principles that I'm teaching, you will have one of these moments. So I have a challenge for you. If you've watched all three of these videos, or if you haven't, go back and watch. Try on one of these principles. Use them to create your own unexpected miracle. So go to your email, put a subject, "You're not going to believe what just happened," and then just save it in your draft. Because I'm telling you, if you apply these principles, you will have one of those moments. Send it to hello@tippingpointrecovery.com, because this work is hard, right? You can imagine. And these results that you get is what keeps me going. If it wasn't working, I would be hard to get up every day and do this, honestly. As an interventionist and a recovery coach, facilitating thousands of conversations and thousands, well, maybe not thousands yet of these messages, but certainly more than 100. I literally remember every one. And so today with me, I'm going to have a recovery conversation with Steph. And thank you, Steph, for being here with me.
Welcome.
When I first met Steph, I could feel through the phone her panic. I could feel her anxiety. My non-clinical term that I call that is up on the ceiling, like not in her body, kind of just hovering in this fight or flight place. Steph, I could so hear that in you. And then when we first got on Zoom, I could see it in your eyes, like that hanging on. So there are people probably watching this video who are having those moments right now. So if you can just take us back to, how long ago was that?
Less than a year, maybe 9 months ago.
Okay. So bring us back there briefly. And in those first few days when your mom gave you my phone number, what were you thinking and feeling and doing when you were talking to me?
So my mom gave me your number and I immediately went to the website. I looked at some of the information, and one of the things that you had said was, um, that you can help your loved one. And I was like, okay, I haven't seen this anywhere before. Like,
Mm.
how can I help? Maybe this is the answer. So I was super anxious to talk to you. And then
Mm.
but before that, I was total panic. Like you said, I remember talking to you and just going on and on. It was probably the first time I've ever really told everything to a single person. Like, never told my friends what was going on. My family knew some things because they saw it, but like never fully talked about it to anyone. So I was just kind of all over the place rambling. So nervous. I mean, I was a mess. I really think that I probably would have been hospitalized if I hadn't found you. I do, because I the hives were just like out of control. My anxiety was out of control. Like, I just wasn't functioning. I wasn't able to focus on my job, my kids. Like, I was really, really struggling. I
You know,
didn't know what to do anymore. It was like, what do I do? How do I help?
I just
So
heard something from you for the first time. I think part of let me back up and say, when I was a lifeguard, training to be a lifeguard, they taught us, I was in high school, don't ever come up to a drowning person from the front because they'll push you under. And that doesn't make sense because you're saving them. But in the panic, you do, I guess people do that. They go to push down the person saving them. And I use that analogy a lot because when families first call me, sometimes it could feel like that to me. And so when you just described, I think what I heard you say was, it was the first time you had seen anybody say, I can help your loved one. I bet that's why you were like, yeah, yeah, but you were trying to listen to me for the thing I was going to say that was going to make that thing made perfect sense. It just clicked for me. Because so your anxiety was obviously, you wanted your husband safe and healthy, and you wanted your marriage, and you wanted your kids to be protected. But it just literally landed when you were saying it to me. I said something that you hadn't seen, and that was what you were going for. And so, because I remember when we were talking, I can tell when people aren't hearing what I'm saying. And it's not a criticism. You know this because you've been working with me. I never mean criticism, but I'm a truth teller. So, wow, that's huge. And I do see what you're saying about the health, where our lives as family is just as much at risk sometimes. Wow. Okay. So, yeah. So let's just take a deep breath into that. Because when I'm asking you to remember these things, I don't want you to go back there. I just want you to tell a little story. But I'm also thinking for the people watching, as you know, I do this a lot when I teach. Let's just take a deep breath together, because if you're watching this and you're feeling Steph's anxiety, it's really easy for you to take that on. Chances are, if you're watching this video, you're an empath and you're the one in your family that wants everybody to get better. So we have to remember that. So now I want to ask you to think back to the time when, days into getting to know you, I was sending you recordings of Stop the Chaos training, our introductory training. And I watched you during that training change. Can you think back to, I think there were four recordings. What was happening as you were listening to them, if you can remember, that was causing this shift to happen in you?
Well, you were saying things that made sense to me, and nothing before made sense. And so there were like light bulbs after light bulbs going off. There was one specific aha moment, but there were many light bulbs that I was like, wow, that makes sense. Like, I'm talking to someone who's sick. Why do I think that if I keep saying the same thing over and over and over, that he's eventually going to get it? Like,
Right.
hello. Yeah.
Right.
So there were just so many things. And I started, like, I was terrified. You know, I'm a codependent. I was terrified to start doing some of the things that you were suggesting. And at first, when I was doing them, like, it was kind of working. And I was like, whoa, this like actually like can work. Like, just putting up boundaries, like, oh, that's not acceptable. You know, just taking care of myself. There was a time where it was probably 2 weeks into starting with you, and I felt like something was off with my husband, and I posted on the Facebook group, and you were like, oh, it sounds like something's going on, you should question it. So I went out and got a drug test, and I said, take the drug test, and he was denying that he did anything. And then I got him to confess, and I was like, wow, like, I have some control here. And then I ended up calling his doctor and reporting it. And he was so mad at me. And normally I'd be like,
reported that they were overprescribing him, and how
yes, or that he was an addict and he shouldn't be getting these pills.
Right.
And he was so mad, and I just removed myself from the situation. I went to my parents' house. I didn't apologize for doing it. Normally he would get me being like, I'm so sorry, I made a mistake. Yes, you need them, like, wow, somehow making excuses. And that was my aha moment. Like, I can be okay and not be sucked into this addiction and not apologize for things that I'm not sorry for. Like, I knew I was saving his life. I mean, he could OD, anything could happen. So I knew that I was doing the right thing. Just in the past, he always his addiction convinced me that I was wrong for doing anything.
So I want to break down some of that, because you just tossed out, what you did is you tossed out so many principles that I know if people are listening, well, first of all, you can scroll back, but I'd love to teach on a couple of those because they're important. What Steph is pointing out is she was caught in this, like, just picture this tangled string, like all kinds of rope and string in the garage. You see it sometimes and you have it lying around, and it's just like almost like 4 pieces of rope all tangled together. What we do is we help Steph pull it apart, because Number one, no, you can't have a conversation with your loved one's doctor without a consent, but they have to listen to your voicemail. So if you want to report something, you can. And what I watched in you just now when you were describing it is the inner strength that you were gaining because you were being guided by a professional to start to do things differently. You weren't all on your own trying to figure out, what do I do? And you didn't cut him off. You didn't kick him out. You didn't use tough love. And you didn't use something that I'm noticing a lot lately is people think, oh, I understand it's a problem and I have compassion. Well, there's compassion that actually can look like being complicit in the problem as well, like allowing. So it's not tough love and it's not compassion. It's clarity, clarity of what you want, which is to not be sucked into the problem. And that was better for you. And guess what? That's what he needed. So it's so interesting in like 3 minutes, because you're now in the language of this. You've got all the tools and principles and you applied them. I love breaking that down.
But I love what you said about compassion, though, because that's what I was doing years before. It was, I love him, so of course I'm going to forgive him. And then, I still fall back into the compassion of like making him leave. And I see other people doing it and putting up their boundaries. And I'm like, good for them. Like, this is the right thing for their loved one. But to do it yourself, it's like, it rips my heart out. Like, it's so hard to do. But deep down, I know is the right thing.
Right, right. So I want to say this right now in this video. Hang on, because at the end of this video, I am going to talk to you about Stop the Chaos and how it's coming. Because I can imagine if I were listening to this, I'd be like, okay, I want what she's talking about. I will do that in a few minutes. So that's really, really valuable. Thank you so much for going through that. And listening to you, I also just remembered a personal experience I had. So I was about 3 years sober from alcohol and drugs. And I was in a really codependent relationship. I didn't know anything about what that meant. But what it meant was I was a lunatic and expecting him to fill all of my parts and make me happy all the time. So you saying that just reminded me of this time I was on the other side of healing from this codependent relationship that I was in. Probably it was about 5 years ago. And I was sitting in my living room and I was having this massive amount of joy. Like I didn't even know what to do with it because I'm not used to that. And this was about 5 years ago. And I didn't know, I hadn't really felt that. So I called my parents, which is what I do all the time. And I said, hey, this is going to sound a little weird, but if I died right now, I'm complete. And they were like, huh? Are you okay? What are you talking about? And I said, no, I just want to explain something. I'm sober from drugs and alcohol. I'm also sober from thinking that people are going to make me happy. Because I really thought that a relationship after I quit drugs and alcohol was what I needed to have to be whole. And it wasn't until I really healed that codependent part of me that I realized I've always been restless inside. And I was looking my whole life outside of myself. I used to say, if he would just do this, or if she would only do this, or if I could just make more money, or if I could just have that job. No, alcohol shut all of that talk up. And then when it started to get noisy again, sober, a relationship quieted that down until it didn't.
Mm.
And so what I learned is I really didn't want to be alone. I had a glass of wine filling it up or a person filling it up, but I was still hurting. And so when I had that moment of joy and had to call my parents, I realized no more self-medicating for me with people, places, or things. So what I want to say to you, Steph, and all the families listening is, if you're happy when your loved one is sober, but you're not happy when they're not sober, then you really got to look at that, because imagine putting your happiness in the hands of an alcoholic. No offense to all the alcoholics, me being one of them. I don't want you resting your happiness on me at all. And I wonder if people who are listening could even imagine. Steph, could you imagine the peace that you feel now back then?
I was just going to talk about that. I remember you telling me I could have peace, and I was like, no way. No way. How is that possible? You love this person and you see them struggling. How is it possible that you could be happy or just at peace?
Can you describe how you think you got here from there?
I listen to every single recording. I try to come to every single meeting. I read every book that I can, and I don't have a lot of time to read, but I will read a book if I can. I just try to take it all in, and anything that you're telling me, I'm going to do it. And listening to other people in the group and my buddy and Mike, just anything that I can take. And sometimes I don't have peace still. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes just like an addict, sometimes I relapse. But I I mean, I'm completely different person than I was 9 months ago. Completely different.
Mm. I think of my kids when they were sitting on the couch and they were teenagers and I was lying to them. I wish so badly someone had told them, you're not crazy. Come here, I'm going to help you and I'm going to teach you these things. And that's why literally I bounce out of bed. I believe as allied professionals in the field of addiction, like I could cry thinking about this. We have an obligation to do more. And if you're watching this video and what Steph and I are sharing speaks to you, whether you're self-medicating with alcohol or you're self-medicating by thinking other people's wellness is going to make you happy, that's your own kind of pain. That's its own kind of pain. So I am on a mission in the next month, 6 weeks. I'm going to be helping 30 families through this 30-day program. It starts May 16th and it's called Stop the Chaos, an introductory to recovery conversations. And what happens is not only do you get better, but you won't be accommodating the addiction anymore. That's what we do, is we accommodate the addiction. And I taught this training twice last year. And like Steph talked about, she watched it in recording, which is really valuable. This will be a live experience for 30 full days. And the cool thing about this one is Steph and about 5, maybe 6 other women, I think all women who are graduates of our programs are going to be there with me helping. So it's going to be delivered over 4 Mondays and there'll be something to do every day for 30 days. I'm going to give you all the details on Sunday. It'll be 50% off and the program is 100% guaranteed. You have to take the whole program to get the guarantee, because I can tell you right now, if you take the whole program and you do anything we suggest, you will not want your money back. But if you do, I will make sure you get your money back. So here's what I'm asking. Challenge yourself. Do something in this video that I shared with Steph today. Do something that she shared or I shared, but comment, let us know, send me a DM, send me an email at hello@tippingpointrecovery.com. It keeps me going to hear how it's working. And I know Steph would be pretty psyched for me to circle back to her and tell her that somebody listened and it made a difference for them. So please let us know how this 3-part series is resonating for you. And on Sunday, I'll send all the details out on over email, over Facebook. And thanks for being part of this 3-part series, because it means that you're the one in the family who knows there's a better way. And we want that for you too, don't we, Steph?
Yes. Can I add one more thing?
You sure can.
So I would say one of the biggest things to help me find peace was taking care of myself. And that's something that I've never, ever done. I've always been taking care of everyone else. So I feel like,
what does that mean to you?
Well, I mean, specifically doing this program was taking care of myself. So that's the hugest step, but just, focusing on what I need, my recovery, and what I need to do for myself, not what I need to do to get him better.
Yeah. Yeah. And is he better in the sense that because I know people are going to be, who are watching, are going to say, but is he sober? Because initially that's all you wanted. So how is he better in your mind? What are you seeing in the 9-month spectrum that isn't what it used to be?
Good question. So he's not sober. But there has been, he went to rehab. There were periods of time that he seemed great. He was learning things. But just, I mean, he's wanting it. He's understanding he's sick. So those are wins.
And you're not spiraling with him.
Right. Yeah. And it's, I've learned too that it's a journey. So it's not just going to be like, I thought, oh, you go to rehab, he comes out, he's all better. Like there's nothing left.
Okay. So that's a huge thing that you've learned. That's massive. You've learned that despite the roller coaster that is recovery, you can still have peace. You don't have it every moment, But
Right.
you did not believe you could have the peace that you now do have access to.
Exactly. Yeah. And Mike has said, as long as there's, upward progress, it's okay to have some. So, I mean, he may get there, he may not. But at least I'm not sucked into
And in the
all the
hospital with
chaos.
hives. Yeah, and then right, right.
Yep.
Oh, thank you so, so much for your honesty, your courage, your desire to help others. And I can't wait to have you be part of helping us for the 30-day experience.
Yeah, I can't wait.